She was a being made of light, or she created light, or she is the darkness so light can exist. She is not warmth, she is not goodness, she is not hope. She is just light. What meanings and symbols humans have placed on her mean nothing. She was a being made of light. She existed, and that's all she ever was.
The squeaking metal was a comforting rhythm as I read my book. She never wanted to do much else. She swung back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She would sometimes change the height or speed, but she would rarely stop. At least not when I was here. She was always sitting still when I walked through the bushes into this slightly blue-tinted world. "Do you like swinging?" I asked. I had been watching her for a while now. "Yes," she said simply. She slowed down her swinging. "So you can like things," I say with a smile on my face. A smile that would have said to anyone that I was joking. I knew she could like things, or at the very least there seemed to be things that she would rather be doing or not doing. The like-doing pile was swinging and listening to me tell stories, or when I was a child watching me play. Didn't like doing was everything else. "That's very human of you," I continue. She wasn't human, had never been human, and while her exact opinions of humans was hard to figure out, it didn't seem to be negative. She stopped completely, suddenly. She kept facing forward. "I'm not a human," she said. "Then why choose the form of one?" I know. I look back in my book. "I only ask because every time I come here you're not swinging. You start as I'm coming in." She went back to swinging, not saying anything. I hadn't asked a question. "What do you do when I'm not here?" "Exist." She didn't even pause. "Just that? Isn't that boring?" "Yes, just that. I don't get bored." I think back to how she was the first time I ever saw her. Feet planted on the ground, sitting for so long that plants had started to grow around her shoes and up her legs. It was a good thing she didn't get bored. "But you like swinging?" "Yes, I do." "Then why don't you swing all the time?" She sped up her swinging, the creaking of the metal rising in pitch. "Do you like reading?" I sat up straighter. It was rare for her to not answer a question, even if her answers ranged from confusing to unhelpful. "Yeah, I like reading." I pause, waiting for her to make her point. "Why?" I finally ask. "Do you read all the time?" I closed my book. She was breaking a lot of her usual patterns. "I can't. I have to eat and sleep. My eyes will get tired, or my butt will get sore. There's plenty of things that I have to do, even if I would rather be reading." "If you could read all the time, would you?" "Yes, of course." Her swinging sped up. I reopened my book. "You wouldn't." I hadn't asked a question. She was in a talkative mood today. "If I had no other needs or responsibilities? Yeah, I think I would." A small tremor rolls underneath the ground. A figure of speech. Not really wandering, but this place was unstable, and that was enough. "You wouldn't," she repeats. The squeaking of the metal chain of the swing set seems to grow louder. She has to have been saying it with absolute certainty, but that doesn't mean it was true. "I would," I said. She looked right at me as she continued to swing, her head unnaturally still as she swung back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I looked down at the ground trying to steady myself. If I hadn't been sitting, I probably would have fallen. You are a human. You do get bored. No matter how much you like it, it's because you can't do it all the time that when you do, you enjoy it so much. But there's so much to read. There's plenty of stories, all different and new. Maybe I would get bored of one book, but then I could switch to the next. I risked a glance to see if she was still staring at me. She was back to looking rigidly ahead. They're all the same story. I hadn't been asking questions. She had just been talking with me. What do you mean? You can't change to another story to not be bored because they're all the same story. I turned myself more towards her. They're not the same story, though. There's different genres, writers, formats. Even in history about the same event, the story could be different. She didn't say anything after that. The swing slowed to a stop. I went back to reading my book. The silence left from the no longer moving swing left a ringing in my ears and made it hard to concentrate on the words on the page. They're all stories of humanity. I hadn't expected her to talk again. Of humanity? Written by humans. They're all the same story. I closed my book once again and put it down beside me. She is not a human. Are all stories written by humans? No, she answers. Then, yes, she says after. How can it be no and yes? Humans have a very unique instinct to want to be remembered, to make a mark. It starts with names and ends with graves, memorials, celebrations. It's all the same story. She starts to swing her legs again, slowly gaining momentum. But humans are not the only thing that live. In that way, everything that has ever made a decision or breathed are telling a story. The swing went higher and higher. Humans are just the only thing that record them. I get up from where I was sitting and walk closer to her. I try to look her in the eye, but it's hard with her swinging up so high. Because every story is written by a human, they're all the same story? Yes, she answers immediately. So eventually I would get bored. Yes. She had a higher twinge to her voice, like she was happy that I was finally getting it. I lean on the pole of the swing set. Could something not human become human? She turned her head towards me. I felt the dizziness that comes with it. I don't want to be human. I could have not been talking about you. You were talking about me. No uncertainty. I roll my eyes. I just thought maybe if you were, you would understand. Her swing slowed down. You are the one that doesn't understand. It's all the same. Fine. Can something human become not human? It happens all the time. What do you mean? I ask quickly. There's a little excitement that I'm too slow to suppress. When humans die, they turn to dirt, or ash, or liquid. At that point, they are no longer human. I felt heat rise in my chest. I mean when they are alive. I am unable to suppress the sharpness in my voice. Do you not want to be human? The height of her swing started to lessen. No, I like being human. You're allowed to lie here. Humans die, she says. Lots of things die, I reply, because they do. But only humans have a need to be remembered. And you have such little time. My eyes follow her as she slowly swings back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. My head starts to feel unsteady again. So? It's the only thing I can think of to say. So humans are afraid of death. Aren't all animals afraid of death? No. The squeaking of the metal chain starts to grate on my ears. What do you mean? My voice is becoming hard to control. Animals are afraid of being killed. Humans are afraid of death. What's the difference? My head throbs in time with her swing. The difference is that humans can't imagine a world without they themselves in it. So they make their mark, whatever it is. And they're so afraid it won't be enough. Every story is written with that fear. Every one. They're all the same. Fine, fine. I have to sit down. I go back to where my book still lay on the ground. I picked up my book and flipped back to the page I was reading. If that's your argument for why I would get bored, I think you're wrong. The tremor that followed that statement is a lot larger than a figure of speech. Why? Because I love humanity. I think every one of its stories are interesting. I can never get bored of it. I go back to reading my book. I read and reread sentences over and over. My mind filled with the knowledge that someone, somewhere, had to have written them down. That each word was thought about, edited, over and over and over. Why use the word dragged instead of pulled, bright instead of sunny, cozy instead of warm? Were the characters saying what they mean? Did they act intentionally, on impulse? I slammed the book shut and got up. She started to slow down her swing. I walked towards the bushes. "Goodbye," she says as she stops swinging completely. They work at a coffee shop. Small. Almost the exact same customers every day. It was nice. Easy. They got to work, baked some muffins, made sandwiches, opened the store, then served coffee. Easy. They enjoyed it. Genuinely. It was retail, sure. Sometimes there was someone rude, but mostly it was the same people, ordering the same food, the same drink, at the same time of day. If only they could work here forever. On their way to work, they would pass by the statue of a man. He sits on a bench facing away from the road. His feet are bare. His boots and socks are on the ground between his legs. He wears work pants and a raincoat. The coat is open, slouching off of him. He leans back on the bench looking up at the sky. He's smiling softly. The statue seems as if he has just finished a hard day's work in the rain, and now the sun has finally come out. It makes the person that works at the coffee shop happy to imagine this. A good day's work done, while they were about to start theirs. On days like this, early in the spring, there were often raindrops from a fresh downpour on the statue. The person liked to wipe away the rain from the statue's face and socks. Nobody wanted to go back home in wet socks. The person knows that it was just a statue, but it felt like a nice thing to do. They remember what the boy had said, that this place was dangerous. They had seen themselves that the blue light kept the creatures out, that the only safety was under that flickering blue light. He had also said that most buildings did not have the blue lights in them. There was no light above them. Not blue, not orange, not even the black glowing lights that streamed out of the streetlights here. Nothing. The white and light gray of the books, bookshelf, and wooden floor were just as dim as they had been in the other place. The place where they had just been. The place before this. They took a step, the scattered papers scraping and sliding beneath them. Then another. Then another. The papers crinkled and moved. It no longer mattered. They had gotten their answer. They knew what questions it wanted her, the state they had been before, to ask. They took another step. Walking felt the same. Breathing felt the same. Thinking felt the same. They took another step. They would never be the person that had been in that room again. They could never go back to not knowing. Everything about them would be different. Another step. The floorboards creaked and groaned. The dark sun shone through the windows at the front of the store. Another step. They had a purpose now, a real purpose. One so compelling and intense that to not do it was the equivalent as holding one's breath. It was instinct in the purest form. Another. They would watch. They would remember. The door to the old bookstore whined as it opened, the dark morning shining through. They shielded their eyes against the brightness of the black sun. The sky was dark and clear, lighting the day. There was a slight breeze that tugged at her hair and skirt. They took a deep breath in, tasting the slight salt of the ocean. They took a step along the sidewalk and building after building after building. Some concrete, some wood, rare ones of brick, their windows square and sometimes circle. Some were dirty, hard to see through, some clean and pristine, roofs slated, moss hanging off the edges. Streetlight after streetlight after streetlight, green and short, pretty to look at, a part of the town, not just a function. Sidewalk, cracks along, intricate bricks, interlaced, trees and benches, statues. A road, one way, right into the ocean, a dock that reached into the ocean blocking the view from the shore, a bench placed perfectly to look at it, and people and people and people and people and people, their thoughts and feelings and motivations and they collapsed to their hands and knees. They felt no pain. They stared at the concrete in front of them, off-white, a crack running through the middle of it. Bumps and ridges, a rough texture, little tiny shadows being cast off of every one, a slightly darker off-white. They shut their eyes. The wind whistled past their ears, their clothes and hair softly brushing against their skin, the slight scratch of their skin across the pavement, their heart beating in their chest, faster and faster. Voices. Voices upon voices upon voices, just distinct enough to not be the buzzing background noise of a crowd, talking, yelling, crying. Stories. Stories of everyone, everything. Stories of things that had already happened, things that were happening, things that will happen. Stories. They need to tell stories. Watch. Remember. An audience of one. So you found what you were looking for? A voice louder than the rest. A voice they had heard before. Of course you have. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. The author. They finally opened their eyes again. The sights and sounds all came rushing to attack them once again. How is it? They couldn't see the author. Good? Bad? Not sure yet? Why couldn't they see the author? You can hear me here now, right? The voice kept speaking. Oh, there you are, the voice said. We still cannot see where the voice is coming from. The sights of the town, the babble of the crowd of people are still overwhelming, making it hard to focus on what the voice is saying. Of course. Knowing the entirety of the story is overpowering at first, the voice said. We can hear the smile in its voice. What is happening? We're finally able to say. It's difficult not to yell when everything else seems so loud. But you seem to be managing, the voice says. Look here. There's a slight change in the direction of the wind. The white light post beside us stops shining black light and flickers to blue. It makes a low buzz as it does. We have heard this buzz before. It's the buzz that comes from the boy under blue light, the voice interrupts angrily. Calmly. I interrupted you calmly. There's a pause as we think. We are to watch, to remember. The voice is telling us to remember something we did not watch, to remember a lie. No, you are to watch and remember a perfect story, and real life isn't a perfect story, so we have to make some adjustments. In any case, I am in fact perfectly calm. I interrupted you calmly. There's no need to bring something like names here. I don't have one, and neither do you. We have a name, we respond with conviction in our voice. Then what is it? We hesitate. We must have a name. All humans have a name, and we're no longer human. Look around. How can you be? We look around. The sights and sounds and many, many thoughts and feelings and motivation and goals and past and present and future of people are still all around, demanding to be told, to be watched, to be remembered. Focusing on the conversation at hand is like trying to talk with someone in a second language over a disconnecting phone. There's so much going on that we have trouble seeing the obvious, until the voice focuses our attention. The creatures are everywhere. Creatures? I see. That is a good approximation of what they are, at least from your previous very limited perspective. They are not creatures, however. They are the lost. The lost? We ask the voice. Why are they called the lost? Watch, the voice says. One of the lost walk over to the blue light, putting its hand on it like the light was glass. The light illuminates its face, revealing Go on, continue. You are here to watch and remember. A human. He has brown hair and a sorrowful face. He wears a t-shirt and jeans. He slams his fists on the light that acts like glass. He screams to let him out, that he will be better, that he can fix the mistakes he put in the story, that he's sorry. They are called that because they are now lost causes, the voice says. The lost continues to slam his fists, to yell, to cry. A lost cause for what? We ask. For what you are now. The voice says it simply, as if we already know the answer. Yes. I really am glad you finally figured out the right questions. That boy under blue light was not worth all the attention you were giving him. The voice says. Oh? Nothing to add? Well, if that's the case, why don't I show you around? An orange light turns on in front of us. It moves forward, then back, making a glitching path. We follow. The boy sat with his head in his hands. I don't want to hear it. I wasn't going to say anything, the old woman said, flipping a page of her book. I just don't get it. Why wouldn't you want the perfect reason to escape a normal life? The boy threw his hands in the air. It's not like she has anything else going on. Some people enjoy a simple life, the old woman replied. Sure, but she clearly doesn't. I don't get it. You should stop coming to see her. The woman's voice had gone from soft annoyance to scarily serious. The boy looked her fully in the eyes. Why? He didn't know what else to say. He felt the need to lean back from the old woman, like she was going to strike him. You must know you're playing a very dangerous game with her life right now. And I don't just mean trying to convince her to go to the other place, which is already dangerous enough, I might add. What do you mean, then? There was a slight orange glow from the coffee shop across the street. Looks like it's already too late. The rain dripped off their umbrella in rivers. It was early morning and they were on their way to work at the coffee shop. It was hard to see more than a few feet in front of them. The only thing that let them know they were going in the right direction was the dim light of the streetlights above. The lights they cast bounced from each raindrop and puddle, surrounding them in a chaotic stream of dancing orange lights. They were looking down at the ground, carefully avoiding the bigger puddles when the light in front of them turns off. Then on again. Then off. Then on. Over and over. They wonder if the storm is messing with the power, or if this light got flooded somehow. Then the light turns off completely, plunging them in a rippling darkness. The streetlight's far ahead, the only pinpoint of light. They debate if it's worth pulling their phone out of their pocket for the flashlight, risking their hands getting wet and cold. Then the light comes back on. Blue, and still flickering slightly. The light makes the raindrops around them look painted and faded. It's not much brighter with this light on. Beautiful evening we're having, a voice says from beside them. They look around trying to find the source of the voice. There's a bench beside them. A figure is sitting on it, lounging back, the raincoat half off. The person is more startled about this than what the man had been saying, as that it was neither a beautiful evening or even evening at all. The man must be freezing, and very clearly confused. They took a step closer. Sir, are you all right? Of course I am. I'm just resting my feet. The person looked down to see that the man had taken off his boots and socks. Sir, it's raining. They took another step forward. The rain obscured the man's face. It's cold. I work just down the street. Do you want to dry off there? What are you talking about, kid? It's perfectly fine here. Let a man rest his feet and warm his face in the sun. At this point, they were debating calling the police. They didn't think the man was dangerous, but he was clearly confused. Maybe an ambulance would be better. Although they weren't sure how they could convince 911 that this man needed a hospital without any clear injuries. They decided to move closer to the man. Maybe they were injured, had hit their head or something. They stepped into the blue, flickering light that surrounded the man on the bench. They knew this man. Had seen him in town every day they went to work. He was a statue, and he had just been talking to them. They were staring up at a bright light, blue, flickering. In the small seconds that the light turned off, they could see a bigger, duller white light behind it. They felt heavy, like they had layers upon layers of blankets on them. They tried to sit up, and felt their clothes slide across their body. It was still raining, and all their clothes were soaked through. How long had they been lying on the ground? Their head felt as if it was filled with air. They watched the drops fall, feeling them slide down their skin. They couldn't hear. They tried to pop their ears, and tried to cover them and uncover them. The rain was a sheet all around them. They still couldn't hear. They stood up slowly, their joints slow to respond. They felt as if they had been lying in the rain for hours. They were cold. They rubbed their arms, hopped from foot to foot. It was still raining. They looked around for their umbrella. They just needed to get to work. They could call a co-worker to bring in some clothes for them, or at the very worst they could use something from the lost and found. There was a bench beside them. No one was sitting on it. They weren't sure why it felt so empty, so wrong. Their umbrella was just a few steps away, hidden in the whiteness. They couldn't think why that felt so wrong as well. They stepped towards the umbrella, the blue light sliding away behind them. They would grab the umbrella, walk the rest of the way to work, then figure out what to do from there. There was a face right in front of them. They couldn't think of any other way to describe it. And then... "We must find the blue light," says one of us in the distance. Another scratches at a blue light, whispering. He heard a low buzz. Curious, he moved towards it. He heard a low buzz. Curious, he moved towards it. Over and over. Another of us waits for a concert that will never happen. Another narrates how that happened. And still others of us stare into nothing, repeating our last phrases, or repeating the same scenes in front of them. All of us reduced to witnesses. There's a statue of two kids playing with a cat. They sit on a bench. The cat lays between them. The boy has short hair and wears a thin sweater. The girl has her hair down and wears a loose-fitting dress. The cat looks content, as if it is purring. They used to watch the story of a child that was curious, that liked to explore, that stumbled its way into a world it shouldn't have. They used to be friends with the child when it got older, when it was more a teenager than a child. All three of them, 4 if including the cat, used to play together, exploring town, talked. It was the only time the child, now teen, had friends. They were the easiest to convince to go through the bushes to meet that being surrounded in blue light. She was swinging when I came in. I felt the creaking of the chains before I heard the screeching metal. "No book again today?" She says it with just the same monotone voice she always uses. The only thing she likes more than being right is proving me wrong. "Why isn't it working?" She kept swinging. I come closer to her, the gravel grating underneath my feet, clashing with the creaking of the chains. She didn't speak for a long time, long enough that I thought it would be the first question she didn't give a response to. Then she said, "It's because you're human, and humans by definition can never achieve perfection." The swing speeds up, and that is what you need for it to work. Her voice sounded heavy, as if it was coming from more than just her throat. I moved to stand in front of her, a hair's breadth away from her kicking feet. I tried to follow her eyes as she went up and down, up and down, up and down. "I'm not a human." I say it simply. I knew it to be true, so the slight shift underneath my feet must come from her. "You are a human." There is no second shift. "I've gone through every piece of me that could make me human and erase it from existence. I only manifest in a human form like you." Her eyes look down at me. "The same human form as before, because it is comfortable. Because it's the one I know." "Change then." I hold her eyes for as long as I can. I hear my teeth crack as I grind them. I only manage to make my form a little blurry, obscured. I can feel my stomach clench. It makes me look like them. The failed ones, the wandering ones, the lost. Disgusting failures. All they had to do was watch and remember. "You're not a human," I say to her. "I am not," she says instantly. "Why can't you do it then?" "Because you asked to do it yourself." I cross my arms. Well, now I'm asking you. It won't work. Oh, so even Little Miss Perfect can't do it? She pulls on the swing chains a little, making a clacking sound reverberate up the chain. The thing you want is something only a human would think of. I can't do it. That's why I gave you the powers to do it yourself. I clench my fists. So it wasn't because I asked. I wouldn't have if you hadn't asked. That's not what I meant. What did you mean then? She wasn't allowed to wander. She didn't ask questions often. Although lately you have been asking me more questions. Why? To understand. Humans are imperfect. I sigh. I've heard this before. It always circles back to this. That she wasn't a human. And no matter how much I have done, how much I've destroyed of myself, how much I've changed, in her eyes, I'll always be one. This time, I won't leave it at that. She will give me a better answer than that. You know what I think? I think you don't know as much as you would like, and it makes you scared. A lot of the time when I ask you a question, you give a vague answer, or repeat something you've already said just differently. Or what you've been doing lately. What have I been doing lately? She asks. The heaviness was back in her voice. That exactly. Asking me questions. I'm not an all-knowing being. It just seems that way to you. To me, huh? Not humans? Just me? 'Cause it doesn't, you know. I'm starting to think you know nothing at all. You didn't bring a book today, she repeated. I haven't brought a book here in decades, and you know very well why that is. Because you no longer enjoy reading. Because... I pause. What? You no longer enjoy reading, she says again. Why would you think that? I don't think that. I know that. No wandering here. But it's not true. I do enjoy reading still. Then why don't you do it all the time? It feels like ice has been poured down my back. You planned this. You knew that the powers you gave me wouldn't work. You made them not work. They don't work in the way you want because the task is impossible. It can't be impossible. You just don't want to be wrong. I don't want anything. I just exist. Her words were getting hard to make sense of. It felt like they were going around and around in circles. It felt like she had been repeating the same things for decades. You were swinging when I came in. I like swinging. You never used to be swinging until I came in. The squeaking metal rang in my ears. I resisted the urge to grab the chain and stop her. I could do it. I have before. Why don't you swing all the time? I asked through clenched teeth. She stopped swinging, immediately, all momentum gone in an instant. Then she did something that I had never seen her do. She smiled. Why don't you read all the time? You have all the time in the world. A wind blew through the park, grass and leaves scraping against each other, cracking. Her many braids swung around her head. Because, I said, my heart thumped in my ears. Because my breath rushed in and out of my lungs. Because, then finally the squeaking metal chains returned as she began to swing. Because it's all pointless, she finished for me. She was still smiling. It sat on her face like a mask. Anything but existing is pointless. That is what it is to be like me. The thing you wanted so bad. She turned to face me. All you have to look forward to now is existence. No more stories. She laughed loud and sharp, her shoulders shaking. She let go of the chain and clenched at her stomach, like she felt pain, like she needed breath, like she even felt the joy she was mimicking. But I felt it. The shame, the embarrassment. I had been tricked. She had given me exactly what I had wanted, and I had still been tricked. She had given me exactly what I had wanted. The wind stops first, then the crunch of the gravel, then the thumping of my heart, then my breath, then her laughing, then finally, that squeaking metal chain. The world under blue light was now silent.
all gonna break the back. There's a day we gonna face the facts that ain't nobody really getting away.
She was a being made of light. Blue light. Only the blue light. She no longer just existed. She watched. Watched the thing she was convinced was still human. And then she didn't. It disappeared. She was only made of blue light.
Blue Flickering Streetlight is written, edited, and performed by Karma Knight, and is produced by Lanturans Aura. Intro and outro music is by Alexander Kordov. Logo is by Raccoon with a Spoon. Everybody Thinks You're the One to Get Away is used with permission by Blue Jay Walker. All other sounds are either recorded by Karma Knight or are from freesounds.org under Creative Commons. For updates, follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, or YouTube under Lanturans Aura, Tumblr under Blue Flickering Streetlight, Twitch and TikTok under UltearLight, or visit our website, lanturnsaura.com. This is also where you will find transcripts of episodes. All links in show notes. Thank you for listening. Dash 4 5 left circle bracket 0 6 8 right square bracket 5 right circle bracket pound 8 paragraph mark 8 left circle bracket double dagger 1 1 6 dash 6 5 0 0 colon 9 6 right circle bracket 6 pound 3